The buzz on the spin. All right, that's the pain in the butt, Hoagie mutters as he sips at his drink. There were a lot of files and videos to go through. Even cutting things down in a 15-minute slice of footage meant he had several hours to parse through in real time, even as he took notes to the side. Madam Bite was a misnomer, a false name, a step beyond what most cloaken take to hide their identities. It was either used by someone fond of several different disguises or a shared identity for a small group of people. Still, Feely, Angla, Tret, and Lutrin were all the same general size and just a few small details difference between them. He could pull off some of those disguises. Regardless, the 4 different forms of Madam Bite were showing up again and again. He had started on a search of similar groups throughout the station and to see where such people were. There were a solid 10 hits in the last month alone. So he got more specific and correlated the timing of things for when one of the girls was out and watched a time-lapse of those bits. He had to re-watch a few times, but he did eventually catch it. Madam Bite, as it turned out, was actually 6 women. They had 3 Lutrin. Mira Catspaw, a very appropriate name for a Feely that has no doubt changed it a few times. Teresa Skim was the Angla. He suspected that she was hiding what she really was, gray rock style. Fill the reports and information with details so bland that few bothered digging further. A tried and true method of hiding the galaxy over. Mona Blaze was the Tret. 2 counts of stealing from government officials in the form of carjacking. Outstanding bounty of 15,000 credits on her head. It looks like people were more content she was gone than eager to chase her. The Lutrin, however, they were interesting. Abigail, Ariana, and Alice Gertha, also known as the Gore sisters. Technically, terrorists running from the Meccan Reach, they had a long history of political unrest with a penchant for stabbing. When one of the riots they kicked off resulted in the hospitalization of the young son of a high-ranking official they had run. Outstanding bounty of 100,000 per sister and $500,000 for the Trinity. A full $1,000,000 if they were brought in alive and intact. Never let it be said that the Meccan Reach doesn't care for its sons. A bit of further digging, and to Hoagie's complete lack of surprise, the Shinescales own a considerable amount of stock in several shipping and pharmaceutical companies that do heavy business with the Meccan Reach. All very interesting, Hoagie notes as he sorts the printed-out files around him. Zizzy was napping in a chair in the corner of his small office. But none of this tells me where the flying fuck Helen got that damned gilded brass. The door opens and the sultry form of Minicy saunters into his office. He's Venetian blinds and a jazz solo away from being a gumshoe in a classic film noir. Especially as the woman favors form-hugging outfits, slinky dresses especially. Zizzy wakes up and goes for her ablator before her eyes even open, but when they do, she's staring down the barrel of a banger that's held in one of Minicai's head tentacles. I adore seeing this. It's just so cute. I understand printing things out is a little archaic, but it does have uses. I have no doubt about that. You just look so adorably busy, especially as your shift ended a half hour ago, Minicy says, and Hoagie pauses with his mouth half open. He checks the time. Well, shit, he mutters, and there's a sigh followed by a smacking sound from Zizzy. All right, that's it. We're blowing this joint. Come on. Time to go home, Zizzy proclaims, zipping up to Hoagie, who rubs at his eyes a bit. But I still need to find out where the gilding operation is. Why's that so important, she demands. So we can send both them and the kidnappers the bill for this screw-up. This station may be beyond the bounds of law, but that does not mean you can just screw around and not have something happen. Fuck around and fucking pay up. Love it, but you need to stop working now before you start giving my girls bad habits. Minicy interrupts and Hoagie inwardly sighs. He knows this argument is lost, but he'll have at least one more thing to say. Not my fault that they can't handle a man working harder and longer than them. No, but if you keep it up, it'll be your problem. Minisai threatens as Hoagie stands and cracks his back as he does so. Understood. I'll lock up and head home. Don't get me wrong, I adore the fact I have to tell you to stop working rather than to actually work. But problems are problems, and I don't like having problems. Minisai tells him, and he nods. I understand. I just get caught up in getting things done. Hit a wall anyways. My best lead is recovering in the brawl yards. So, you know who she is? Yeah, Helen Shinescale, daughter of a major stock owner that was kidnapped to be used to influence decisions in the Meccan Reach. When the family informed the kidnappers that their request was flat denied or flat out impossible, she was thrown out like so much trash. Somehow found some gilded brass and used it like legit money to try and gamble her way to freedom. On the way, she self-dosed with chill to calm down, but being a good little girl that never touched the stuff before she mismeasured or couldn't identify the uncut stuff and nearly killed herself. She's also bad at gambling, so she's broke as well. A sad tale, Minisai remarks, and Hoagie gives her a steady look in the eye. Is there more to this? Maybe? Which means yes, keep looking, or I want you to keep looking to see if you kick over any other anthills chasing nothing. Yes, Minisai says with a big smile. Great, he says, and there's pat on his head, and Zizzy visibly resists the urge to open fire. Oh, relax, little Sharby. I'm happily married, though if I had a son I would hope him to be like one of the undaunted boys on the station. And if they were my sons, Daniel here would be my favorite. Thank you, but I need to head back to the hive before they send out search parties. Hoagie says somewhat awkwardly. Thankfully, Minisai leaves shortly after that, and he locks up his office and begins to head back to Hivers. Stop the psycho routine. Hoagie remarks as Zizi's head and ablator are basically on a swivel as they walk through Hivers and head for the building that they own. She keeps it up and adds a little growl until they cross the threshold into their home and she all but drops out of the air. Hoagie catches her and the ablator and continues through the armored gateway into the second threshold. He then puts the weapon to the side as Zizzy climbs up him and just holds on. You girls don't have to do this, I'm fine. He insists even as she pulls off her visor and yawns. Too bad, I want to do this. I want to keep you safe and you can't stop me from wanting it, she says, snuggling close for a moment before her wings buzz again and she then zips off to change. He peels off his Hawaiian shirt and folds it into a cubbyhole before slowly disarming. Several knives, guns of numerous types, lasers, plasma, grenades, and the magazines to reload all the guns all go in before he rolls his shoulders, pulls off his armored vest and tucks it in as well. Back, Zizzy says, flying into his back and cuddling close. Her punk gangster outfit is gone in favor of a loose t-shirt that swims over her and a pair of yoga pants. She cuddles in and takes a deep breath, just luxuriating in being near him. You all right? You just never stop. You go and go and go and go, and keeping you safe the whole time doesn't work. She readjusts her grip and cuddles a little closer. I fell asleep when I was supposed to keep you safe. You don't have to keep me safe. Any room I go into, and I'm the thing most people need to be kept safe from. Should have torched the doctor for pushing you around, Zizzy mutters. Then Helen would have died, he says gently. Don't care about her. She's not one of us. She's not family or hive. Don't want you pushed around or hurt. Hive first. Always hive first. He slowly reaches around and pulls her to the front to give her a firm hug. Come on, let's see how everyone else is doing. Movie night. We missed dinner, she mutters. Let's see what they left us then. Hoagie remarks, walking through the large open area. Despite being a small race Sharbi, like their home's big, so they have room to fly around and stretch out even though they live packed in like sardines. No wonder I dozed off. We had nothing to eat for too long. Sorry I get caught up working. Hoagie whispers back to her as he carries her through. The sheer absurdity of the Char-B is still something he's getting used to, inch by inch, though he's just getting more comfy with it. Workaholics when on the field, berserkers when out in public, and buzzing love bugs when safely home behind their personally made bulkheads. They separate the galaxy into hive and unknown. Everything in the hive is for love and duty. The outside is to be hated and feared. A bowl of Abba's soup and a large sandwich are waiting for them both in the dining room. They're in stasis, so they don't go stale or cold as Hoagie carries Zizi in to set her down in front of the soup. "You're back," Zabriza says, flying up to him and giving him a kiss on the cheek before quickly checking on Zizi. "You don't look hurt, but it looks like you got woken up halfway through a nap." "There was paperwork and I lost track of time. Since it was just her and me in my office, she fell asleep until the station master came in," Hoagie says as he uncovers his sandwich. "Anything bad happen?" Zabriza asks Zizi, who sighs into her soup. "He got pushed around a little, but wouldn't let me do anything about it." She complains before picking up the bowl and starts to drink from it directly. "He does that," Zabriza says with a sigh. "Big man has to keep proving himself tough and not letting us take care of him." "It's not about proving anything, it's about not starting fights that don't need to happen," Hoagie says as he picks up half of his sandwich and takes a bite. "Humans. Good grief," Zabriza remarks with a smile. "Our girls are going to be insanely independent, and the boys will be incredibly communal." Hoagie returns after swallowing his mouthful. "I hope so. It'll be impossible to keep track of them otherwise." Zabriza notes somewhat wryly, "We could put tracers on them." Hoagie jokes and Zizi nearly chokes on her soup. "How about a no?" Zabriza asks, and Hoagie chuckles before taking another bite. "Anyways, I'm glad you're both home. The station outside is dangerous. Less so now that I'm inside," Hoagie remarks around his food. You're a ton of softness in a 200-pound sack. If anything, it's more dangerous out there now," Zabriza remarks, and Zizi nods as she finishes draining her soup. "Wow, you were hungry. Want another bowl?" Not a full bowl. I don't have much more room," Zizi says, and Zabriza nods. "Back in a minute. Try not to stress out any more of your wives' Dan." "That's physically impossible. You girls worry over everything," Hoagie replies before finishing off the first half of the sandwich. "So, what kept you so long?" Zabriza asks curiously as she comes in with the bowl partly full of more Abba soup for Zizi. Hoagie hums in response. "The mess in Sector 6 was started by someone using Kutha-covered brass. We traced it to a burnout named Helen Brightscale, who, as it turns out, was a hostage taken for ransom that was then refused. So she was cut loose and nearly died on the station. Everything is mostly clear, but I'll be digging into more tomorrow. I know who dragged her to this station, but not where she got the false Kutha. Need her up and alive to learn that, and who knows when she'll wake up." "Beyond the doctor treating her?" Zabriza asks, and Hoagie nods. "Exactly. I just got caught up in sorting everything out and making sure I know everything. No one was in danger, and I was in one of the safest parts of the station the whole time," he explains, and Zabriza nods. "Good. You hear that, girls? He's fine. Everyone's fine," she says, pulling out a small receiver from under the collar of her blouse. There's an audible sigh of relief from further into the home and some muttering. "You girls seriously need to unclench. This cannot be healthy." "Well, if you'd stay home where it's safe, we could relax much more easily." "But I have a job to do, an important one." "Then we're going to keep worrying. And I'm going to keep telling you to relax." "What did that movie say? The Circle of Life?" Zizi asks, and Hoagie snorts in amusement.